All right, welcome back, everyone. Ready for another deep dive?
Always ready to dive in.
Excellent. Today, we're going to be looking at something we use every single day. Multiple times a day, probably. Every time we talk, every time we write.
Language.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But we're going deeper than just using it. We're talking about the building blocks of language itself.
Sounds pretty fundamental.
It is. But sometimes, going back to basics can give you a whole new perspective.
I like that.
And to guide us, we've got a snippet from, well, you wouldn't believe it, a basic English grammar podcast.
Back to school.
Pretty much. But trust me, we'll be extracting some seriously insightful stuff. This isn't just about diagramming sentences. By the end of this, you'll be a sharper communicator, and I guarantee you'll start to see the hidden magic in how we all use words.
All right, I'm intrigued. Let's break it down.
Perfect. So, first things first, the fundamental trio. Nouns, verbs, adjectives.
Can't have a sentence without them.
Exactly. They seem pretty simple at first glance, right?
Yeah.
But I think there's more to them than meets the eye. What do you think?
Oh, absolutely. They're the foundation, for sure. Every sentence needs a subject, the noun, and an action, the verb.
Right.
But it's not just about identifying them, it's about understanding how they work together. Like if you're describing something, let's say a car, you wouldn't just say car, would you? You'd say a sleek red sports car.
Ah, I see what you mean.
Those adjectives, they add so much detail. It's like the difference between seeing a blurry photo in a high-definition image.
Makes sense. And then the verb, something like races,
Yeah,
brings the whole scene to life.
exactly. Suddenly, you're not just looking at a car, you're imagining it in motion.
Love it. Okay, so we've got our core elements, but then there are those little words that stand in for nouns, pronouns.
Yeah.
They seem simple, but I'm willing to bet there's more to them than meets the eye.
Way more than you might think. They can actually change the whole feel of what you're saying. Think about it. Tone, formality, all that.
Oh yeah, I can see that.
Like imagine a CEO talking to their team. If they say, I've decided to restructure, it sounds very different from, we've decided to restructure.
Right. That we makes a huge difference.
Exactly. It implies shared responsibility, teamwork, all of that. And then, of course, there's that pesky subject-verb agreement issue.
Oh, tell me about it. I've definitely tripped over that one a few times.
It happens to the best of us. But understanding how pronouns work helps us avoid those little grammar traps.
For sure. All right, so we've got the core sentence structure down. But what about those words that add all the extra flavor and nuance? I'm talking about adverbs and prepositions.
Ah, those are like the spices and seasonings of language. Adverbs tell us how an action happens. Saying, he walked, is so different from he walked briskly or he ambled lazily.
Totally different vibe.
Right. And with prepositions, just changing one little word can completely transform the meaning of a sentence.
Like I left the book on the table versus I left the book under the table. Two totally different scenarios.
Exactly. Prepositions give us context, location, time. They tell us how things relate to each other in the world.
So if nouns and verbs are the main ingredients, adverbs and prepositions are what really make the dish pop.
Perfect analogy. And last but not least, we've got conjunctions and interjections.
Conjunctions, those are the ones that kind of glue everything together. Right?
Exactly. They connect words, phrases, even whole sentences. They're what let us build arguments, tell stories, all of that.
But because they help us connect the dots.
Precisely. And then interjections, they're the bursts of pure emotion. The wow when you see something amazing, or the ouch when you stub your toe.
Yeah, the more visceral ones.
Exactly. They bring our personality and our feelings into our language.
So we've deconstructed the sentence and looked at all its key parts.
And this is just the tip of the iceberg. Now that you're more aware of these building blocks, I challenge you to listen and read with a new level of attention.
It's almost like you've gained a superpower. You can see the code behind the words.
Pay attention to the choices people make with their language. You'll be amazed by what you discover.
So much depth to uncover. That's it for this deep dive, everyone. Thanks for joining us, and keep exploring the power of words.
Until next time.